Aloha and good morning and welcome to Live at the Legislature, where every week we sit down and talk to members of the House of Representatives to talk about issues, concerns, priorities, and legislation moving through the halls of the state capitol. This morning we're going to focus on issues relating to the Public Safety Department. It is in charge of taking care of our prison systems and taking charge of our state law enforcement arm, the Sheriff's Department. Recently, the department has been in the news. There have been two fatal officer-involved shootings involving a state sheriff and a correctional officer. And recently, there was a major disturbance at Maui Correctional Facility. Amidst all this, the Director of Public Safety is trying to get reconfirmed for another 4 years. Joining us this morning to help decipher what's been going on is the chair of the House Committee on Public Safety and Veterans Affairs, Representative Greg Takayama.
Good morning.
He also represents District, and I hope I get this
34.
right, 34.
Pearl City.
Pearl City, God's country.
Absolutely.
Everybody
Fourth
who comes
happiest
here.
city in the country.
Really? Kailua is the 6th. But welcome and thank you for joining us,
Sure.
because a lot has been going on with that department, and maybe you can help us run through and decipher some of this.
Sure. You know, it's been in the news and, for a number of controversies. I think in some ways it's a good thing that we have this public discussion about public safety, because the department plays such a large role in, number one, running our corrections department, and it directly affects public safety because, number one, it takes a big chunk of our taxpayer money. The budget for the Department of Public Safety is more than $300 million a year, and that's third only to our education and UH departments. The other part of it is that it does directly affect public safety. Virtually every inmate in our prisons and jails is going to come out and rejoin our community. So whether that inmate comes out better, a better citizen than when he went in, or she went in, is going to play a large role in the public safety of our own communities. So yeah, I think it's a good public issue to discuss.
Can you maybe start from the beginning? Give us a little brief explanation. I am aware of OCCC, but take us through what are the facilities on each island and what are they supposed to do?
Sure. We have community correctional centers on each of the neighboring islands in Hilo, on Kauai, and on Maui, and of course on Oahu we have OCCC. We call these community correctional centers, they're basically jails, and this is where people who are awaiting trial or who have been sentenced to short terms, less than a year, spend their time. Prisons, we have several of them. The largest, of course, is at Halawa on Oahu, Halawa Prison, where we have about 1,100 inmates. Our actually single largest prison isn't even in Hawaii. It's in Arizona, and it's run by a private corporation, and there we have about 1,400 inmates, and these are long-term inmates. In addition, we have the women's prison in Kailua, and on the Big Island at Kulani, we have a minimum facility for people who are serving longer terms, but they're specifically there for sex offenses, and that's where we have a treatment program for them.
So what is the state of our correction system?
Bottom line is we have a lot more inmates and detainees in our prisons and jails than we have room for. And that's been true for about 20 to 30 years. In other words, we have about 5,500 inmates and detainees, and we have room for about half of them. What that translates to, especially in our neighbor island facilities, is that they end up sleeping in a cell that's meant for two, 3 or 4, which means two of them are sleeping on the floor next to toilets or whatever facilities. And it's clearly a situation that the legislature bears some responsibility for, because we've known about it for decades and really haven't done as much as we should have. So now, before this legislative session, are several issues. We are spending money to expand our facilities on the neighbor islands in Hilo, on Maui, and on Kauai. And of course, there's ongoing consideration as to what kind of shape a new OCCC should take.
Well, it takes a lot of money
Definitely.
to build new facilities.
Yes.
What are the alternatives to that? Or are there any alternatives to that?
Well, we certainly need to modernize. We, as you said, do need to put more resources into improving our facilities. But the second half of it is that we need to look at maybe people who shouldn't have to be in jail. And that's why we're looking at the process of bail reform. Last year, the legislature appointed a task force to look at the issues related to bail reform, and they've come back with a report with 24 recommendations, and we're taking a hard look at them now. See, the bottom line is that half the inmates at our jails haven't been convicted of anything. They're awaiting trial. They can't post bail. And the bottom line about bail is that it's a cash bail system under the current system. In other words, if you're wealthy, you can pay bail.
Right.
Those who have less means oftentimes cannot. And what it means if you're sitting in jail unnecessarily is that it affects your job, it affects your family, it affects your life.
Right.
And studies have shown that people who spend time unnecessarily in jail are exposed to a criminal element they wouldn't otherwise be, and they turn out worse. And that's not in our interest. That's not in the interest of public safety. So we're taking a serious look at bail reform, streamlining the process so that people don't have to wait weeks in jail unnecessarily, waiting for a chance for a bail hearing. Streamlining the process so that those people who are on bail or who have been cannot afford bail, are really the bail is set an amount that's reasonable based on their financial circumstances as well as their risk to the community.
How many people do you think with bail reform that would take out?
It's not going to eliminate all the people who are in jail, cannot post bail, because those who are a risk to the community, those who are a risk of running away and not showing up for court, those won't be affected. I'd say we can at least look at those several hundred people who we might be able to release.
I've got 50 seconds. I want
Sure.
you to quickly talk about an ingenious idea that you put forth, and that was look into buying the underused federal detention center. That did not move in the Senate. Is it dead, dead, dead?
Oh, it's not necessarily dead. It's, again, it's a common sense idea to instead of building a new CCC at a cost of hundreds of millions of dollars, buy the federal detention center. Half the people there we already pay for rent from, and it's underutilized. Less than half the cells are used. So I think the governor can still pursue it, even though we're not passing a law this year. And the governor can look into it with the White House, come back next session and tell us what he finds out.
Well, great. There are lots and lots to talk about. It is a tough department. It is not a touchy-feely department. But we're all touchy-feely here, and that's why next week we're going to be back with Live at the Legislature. See you again. Aloha.
Do you know your legislators? Visit capital.hawaii.gov and enter your street name to find detailed information about your representatives and senators. From your district number to the committees and current bills your legislators have introduced, this is an easy way to stay up to date with what is happening in your community. If you're looking for detailed information concerning Hawaii State Senate and House hearings, please visit olelo.org/gov-archives. Videos are arranged by date, with the most recent at the top of the list. You can also search the on-demand media library by typing keywords into the search box.
Are you looking for an easy way to get involved in the legislative process? Stop by the Public Access Room located in Room 401 at the Hawaii State Capitol. The Public Access Room provides citizens of Hawaii's facilities, services, and equipment to enhance their ability to participate in the legislative process.
Aloha and welcome to Live at the Legislature, where each week during the legislative session we give you a chance to hear directly from your state senators about what's going on here at the Capitol. As we enter the final weeks of the session, some of the bills that are still alive focus on criminal justice reform, including bail reform and prison overcrowding. Joining us today is Senator Clarence Nishihara, the chair of the Senate Committee on Public Safety, Intergovernmental and Military Affairs. He represents the 17th District, which includes Waipahu, Crestview, Manana, Pearl City, and Pacific Palisades. Thank you, Senator, for being here today.
Thank you. Aloha. Good morning.
During the interim, you were a member of the Criminal Pretrial Task Force, and you guys produced a long report on the Hawaii criminal pretrial reform. Can you tell us more about the task force and your work with them?
Yes, it was called Task Force HCR 85, which was a House resolution, concurrent resolution, which called for that, putting together that task force. And the group was quite diverse. They had judges, you had prosecutors, you had defense attorneys, you had advocates for criminal justice reform. You also had OHA was a part of it. You also had, we had, as part of that HCR, it called for to have some members who were formerly incarcerated. And so we had that as well. We wanted to have both a male and female. I think at the end we only had a male, I think. But anyways, it was quite lengthy because we started in June of 2016 and we didn't complete the work until, just about toward the ending of 18. So it took almost 2 years, a year and a half actually. But out of that came a whole bunch of recommendations how they could reform what we all believed was a system that was not sustainable, it wasn't effective, it wasn't cost effective, and a whole bunch of things, a reason why we need to fix it. And when you look at what's happening across the country, they're also looking at how they're going to reform their systems because they're finding it, as we have, that it's not cost effective, it's not sustainable, it's not cost effective, and it's not producing the results that we think that we need to have. We can't keep growing our incarcerated numbers larger and larger, which already we have a problem where we have to ship about 1,600 Hawaii inmates to Saguaro in Arizona. I had gone there some years back when Senator Sakamoto had the committee, and we went to visit Arizona. And when we went there were two. There was Red Rock as well as Saguaro. So now we're only down to Saguaro. But as it is, we have probably over 8,000 inmates that are housed in both Arizona, Halava, and all the jails. So anyway, the idea was to see how we could change who we incarcerate, how we do it. And that's why pretrial was also an issue, because people get into the system when they first appear to court and they're in the pretrial. So before you even get to the trial system, some people can be put out on bail. So bail reform was an issue as well, because there's some people that probably they could just pay a bail and they wouldn't even have to go into jail, because what you find is the pretrial segment of the population probably covers more than half of who's right now that's locked up. So when you think of it, when you keep locking up people who don't need to be there, it causes the overcrowding, which is what happens, causes what happened on Maui, the Maui prison, where a lot of them that were later taken out from the Maui jail and sent to Halava were pretrial detainees. So, but the issue with the prisons is more than the fact that they're overcrowded. It's also that the facilities are old, they need to be renovated. That's true. But there's also policies that they have in how they select and how they keep people. The fact that we have people who are pretrial detainees and people who are locked up, those who are locked up are kept longer than their appointed sentences. And it seems like public safety hasn't done a good job of determining whether a guy has served his time, but now they keep him for like maybe 4-6 months longer than they should, which means he occupies a cell that he probably shouldn't be occupying.
Aside from the fact that he's supposed to be free and he's locked
Absolutely. Should be free, and certainly we don't want to lock up people who don't have to be there. It doesn't make our community safer by doing that. So anyway, there was that in that reform bill, it called for among other things. The task force called for a new vision of how we should look at our justice system. And I'll just read it from what I have. It says, a justice system that is rooted in our cultural values, protects our rights and liberties, promotes safety, peace, understanding, and reconciliation, and through its policies, procedures, and decisions, and personnel, restores communities and affirms the value of every person who comes into contact with the system. The public probably doesn't realize that almost everyone who's locked up, regardless of length of sentence, eventually will be released. You know, whether it's for a few years, a decade or two, or whatever it is, but they all come out. We don't keep people locked up forever, you know, indeterminate sentences. And so they will come out. The question is, are they going to come out better than before they went in? And we find that the longer they're in, the less positive the results are. And so it affects families who have their husbands, or in some cases the women, and their families with their kids and all of that become part of a system that is not going to reform our society. And I think to that extent, that's what the task force tried to look at. And so, as an example, there is a few House bills and Senate bills that are moving through and up for a vote very shortly. House Bill 1552 calls for a Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission. And I think that's important. We need to have a better handle on what's happening in our system.
I'm sorry, Senator, but we are running very short on time. We've consumed our 8 minutes, but there's still more on it. We're going to encourage the public to keep an eye on all of these bills, keep an eye on what's moving. Thank you for being here. Thank you for waking up.
Well, thank you.
In. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time, live at the Legislature.
Do you know your legislators? Visit capital.hawaii.gov and enter your street name to find detailed information about your representatives and senators. From your district number to the committees and current bills your legislators have introduced, this is an easy way to stay up to date with what is happening in your community. If you're looking for detailed information concerning Hawaii State Senate and House hearings, please visit olelo.org/gov-archives. Videos are arranged by date, with the most recent at the top of the list. You can also search the on-demand media library by typing keywords into the search box.
Are you looking for an easy way to get involved in the legislative process? Stop by the Public Access Room located in room 401 at the Hawaii State Capitol. The Public Access Room provides citizens of Hawaii's facilities, services, and equipment to enhance their ability to participate in the legislative process.
Good morning and welcome back to Live at the Legislature. My name is Kaeokelo Halinzi with the Legislative Minority. Joining us today is Senator Kurt Favela, the Minority Leader, Senator from Ewa Beach, to talk to us about a number of issues that happened last week and what will be moving forward this week. Senator, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, yes.
So one of the responsibilities you have as a senator is the power of advising consent.
Yeah.
And so what that means is, you get to sort of share your mana'o on whoever the governor appoints for, public safety, Hawaiian homes, all of that. And so we had two of those hearings last week.
Right.
And we'll start with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. The governor had appointed William Isla to be the deputy of DHHL, and so plenty of people were there testifying. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we had a lot of people opposed, and we had a lot of people for him. But like I shared with my family and my staff, is that if you listen to his interview, and I get blessed to be on all of them because I get to be on all of them. So which is good because I learn a lot. But when I listen to the candidate speak on their future, on their with Hawaiian homes, let's go straight to it. I wasn't impressed with his response to his candidacy. So even though I was the only one that voted no. A lot of people around the state on Hawaiian homes and not didn't really, wasn't too keen with the rest of my fellow senators from what I'm hearing. But, you know, the decision that they made was their decision. But I felt that I feel my personal view, what I had from the interview and talking to him previously, is that I don't think he's qualified to lead as a leader of Hawaiian homes, because what's going to happen, and because right now we don't have a governor's message for director, and he's going to be the interim director. Later on, he will be the director. Right now, if you listen to his testimony, he gave a lot of props to the director, Joby, who's not coming down from the governor right now as a governor's message. But if you look at that, you should be able to, being there for as long as he was there, he should be able to say how much Hawaiians he's going to be putting in homes, how quickly he's going to try to get stuff to be built. He had no plan. He talks about what Joby and previous administration plans are. He had no plan. He talked about building a home, being relocated, all of those things. So when I sat there and I listened, and I told everybody, do you guys really listen to his vision, to leading people to homes and not taking away their homes is very important to the Hawaiian people. We have about 26, maybe I think almost 30,000 people still on the list. Family members like mine is dying on the list. So we need to have a plan, a very good plan to expedite it. We have the money, we should expedite it. And by slow boating it, it really caused me to question that is he really qualified? You know, as a harbor master, he did well there, but I don't foresee him taking it by the reins.
Yeah, and then another, since you said you sit on every committee, you also got to sit on the Nolan Espinda confirmation hearing for public safety. And so what were your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I watched the testifiers that came and testify for him and against him. And I share this with you and the listeners out there. When I observed the room, when his wife came, now regardless how I feel about you or you feel about me, when his wife came out and poured her heart from her heart, big time, about her loving husband, how compassionate and loving her husband is with the family. And she talked about her illness. Really felt it in my heart. But as I was scanning, the people that was against him for being the director, there was no compassion, bro. I looked in the room and I just felt it was like, wow, this lady's pouring out her heart. I get tears in my eyes, so as the other, you know, people in the audience, and you know, and you can see emotion, yeah?
Yeah.
And the ones that came and testified on his behalf, they only came for one reason, not to him to be director. So I think they lost the humanness of themselves. To me, that's what it felt like. So regardless of how you feel about somebody, but when somebody comes up, wife comes up, or somebody comes up and talk about the intimate relationship of her husband, you gotta have some kind of emotion. Unless you're only there for yourself, me, I, then yeah, you ain't gonna have any emotion. Nothing can penetrate the heart like that. And we know that for the test of time, from back in the day with Pharaoh, right? He hardened his heart,
Yeah.
you know? And that's what I felt. I felt these guys hardened their hearts so much that they couldn't see the beauty of what she was saying, regardless of how you feel about him, whether you want him the director or not. But when a man's wife comes out there like that, and you look at the people who is real and who is there for themselves, that's a determination that you can make very easily. And that's what I was really hurt about, that I seen that. And it was very disappointing.
And then another, I think, really tough issue that you folks had to deal with last week was the A and B water rights bill.
Right.
It was HB 1326, and it may come to a Senate vote tomorrow, as it was without any of the amendments. And so tell us a little bit of your thoughts on that.
You know,
and kind of the Hawaiian
the thing from the
stances and
beginning,
everything.
as I talked to my fellow senators and my staff, this is just more than just a water bill. I asked the Attorney General of course, A and B always been controversial with the water and sugarcane, and let's stop the sugar cane because sugar cane is not good for us now to burn them. Even though, look at me, nothing is wrong with me. I was surrounded by sugar cane in Ewa Beach. They burnt it all the time. But of course, they did what they did. They shut down the plantation. So I asked the Attorney General, I asked them, so when did this really pressure out more? Is when the sugarcane was using masses and millions of gallons of water, and now they're using way less, but they're still grumbling. It's all personal and self-centered, I guess, interest. What is that, how you say that?
Self-interest.
Self-interest. A lot of this is self-interest, bro. You can tell. Because the guys who shut down the sugar industry, they had plans for the land. And they don't agree with the land sale. So what they do, they rile everybody up. They're going to hurt guys on the Big Island and in Kauai. The ranchers, farmers in those neighbor islands are going to hurt because in Maui, some of the people, like you said, like I was trying to say, self-interest. Because they was upset on the land sale. They wanted to cut them up. They wanted to make hemp farms. I guess they wanted to do papayas or whatever. When A and B sold the land, which they had every right to sell the land, they sold them. And they said, oh, but they sold them with the router rights and this, that. But the real thing is, really look into it. Really, I talked to so many people on Maui. A lot of them don't have that same interest, don't have that same concern. It was all about the land. They wanted to do something else on the land. That's why they shut down the sugar industry so that they could come and try to swallow up the land, but A and B sold it. And that's what made them upset.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot that'll come, especially if it'll come up to a vote tomorrow and we have crossover and all of that. But Senator, thank you for joining us as always. It's always a pleasure to talk story with you. And to the viewers again, we will see you next week. Aloha.